I want to say, first of all, this has been a great, amazing weekend, and I'm so excited to see what's going to happen on stage tonight, because I have no idea. I'm going to bring up one of our facilitators. We've had two amazing facilitators over the weekend, Mark Hadley and Ian Castillo down from Iowa City and Techstars, and we're going to get the show on the road here with four amazing teams that have worked diligently. So put your hands together and Mr. Ian Castillo.
Oh, that is super bright. How's everybody doing?
Good, man.
Can you guys hear me okay? Because I can't hear myself, so it's fine. Thank you so much for coming out on your Sunday evening. These teams have worked diligently for basically the past 2.5 days. From Friday night, they started with an idea and had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And by midday today, people were practicing pitches from companies that they made up literally like hours before. We'll go relatively quick. We'll go over the judging criteria. But before we do that, we're actually going to bring up one of the organizers, have them say a couple words about the sponsors.
Thank you for coming. This is the most fun I've had at the Fairfield Collab, except for when we got to smash walls down with sledgehammers a couple years ago. I didn't participate on a team. I got to just float around and soak up the vibes of all the people that were working hard and researching and making this happen, creating logos, ideas, merging ideas. And it's such an awesome process, whether you're right in the mix or you're on a team. Encourage everyone to share this event, knowledge of this event to everyone you can. Couldn't have done it without all of our sponsors. US Cellular, huge thanks to them. VKH, FIDA, Iowa Wind and Solar, NUN College of Business, Biz Training, Global ID, Centered Wealth, Natel, Noise Law Office, SEO Design, the Arbor Bar, Riley Designs, Big Game Software, Big Tree Marketing, and we had a lot of help from our coaches, our mentors, Marla for the food, and everyone that helped her out, keeping things running smoothly. That's the best I've eaten over the weekend in a really long time.
So now we're going to go pretty quickly over the judging criteria that the judges are going to be looking over for each team. So 3 big ones. The first one's validation. Basically, do you have a problem, and did you go out and do any sort of market research? Did you do some customer discovery? Execution. Do you have an MVP? Do you have a prototype? Do you have something to basically show for the past 2 days? And then your business model. Is your problem unique? Has someone already solved it? What is your value proposition? So this is the format for the pitches. 5 minutes of pitching and then 3 minutes of Q&A from the judges. So it's going to be a firm stop at those 5 minutes. So I will start clapping once that's over. So don't hate me too much, but I will get you off the stage. But the judges will have 3 minutes. If they're in mid-question, I'll just let them finish it out. But that will be 3 minutes as well. And remember to have fun, because tomorrow morning is work day, so enjoy your weekend.
A major problem for couples in long-term relationships is the lack of intimacy and connection. For example, 21% of divorcees blame their divorce on the loss of connection. 20,000 people a month search Google for the terms sexless marriage and intimacy issues. We offer the solution, Cardexy. Cardexy is a romance and fun card game for couples to reignite the intimacy in their relationship. Our mission is to encourage a sense of childless play and connection in couples in a respectful and balanced way.
The Cardexy kit contains 20 cards with 4 themes involving activities such as role-playing, challenges, riddles, other sorts of creative, fun games to play. The kit also includes a how-to booklet and an intimacy tips booklet. The how-to booklet provides overviews for stories, design and decor suggestions to set the scene, as well as dialogue and actions to take.
Our target market. We're targeted in the face-to-face game market, which is booming in the United States. In 2016, board games were the single most funded item on Kickstarter. We're also targeting the e-commerce personalized market. Personalized products have a higher perceived value. Our demographic is couples aged 35 to 60 who have lost the spark in their relationship.
People that we spoke to agree that monotony and routine definitely creep into their relationships over time. And if you have a busy career and children, that also makes it hard to maintain that loving feeling. Just one example of some feedback that we got said this is a great idea. Anything that breaks the pattern, seeing your partner in costume, you see them in a different light. And we did some research showing that 2,400 people search each month for romantic games with a cost per click of 26 cents, resulting in low competition.
Our competitors. There are dozens of romance-based card games, but they're mainly activity prompts. For example, just offering a truth or dare. Our main competitor is the bedroom game, a 6-category card game, and one of them being a role-playing and fantasy game. Virtually all of our competitors are more focused on the sexually explicit aspect of the relationship. Cardexy is different and it aims to evoke more mystery, romance, and fun for the couple.
Which brings us to some of our unique selling points, such as the option to personalize the card characters with your own headshots, photos. We want you to focus on the romance part of it, creativity, just having fun and adventure and hamming it up.
We plan to roll out by selling the Cardexy product on our own website where they can personalize it, like Karen said, put their faces in the images. And the non-personalized versions will be sold in stores and via Amazon. We plan to advertise through pay-per-click, search engines, Google type ads, social media promotions, and trade show. We also have an expanded product line, which includes specialty themes, for example, as well as the basic Cardexy card deck. We might have a special theme like a space theme or a Victorian theme. We also plan an app or a mobile app.
So let's talk money. We calculated the cost of manufacturing to be about $10 per kit. We want to start the retail at $30 per kit. And we also anticipate some add-on sales from costumes and props. We calculated the cost of acquisition per customer to be $5, which results in a $15 profit per kit. We project that our first year sales will be 10,000 units, doubling into the second year, and with a third year projection of 1 million.
Our team is Stephanie Chambers, founder, writer and seller of mystery party games, myself, website designer and oracle card reader, Eli Honican, retail experience artist and graphic design, Andrew Kirshner, activist and author, and Karen Tobin, non-GMO certification consultant. Thank you.
There's a mic on the table for Q&A from the judge.
Oh yeah, all right, started.
Thought we could do this.
And we may need some of our other team members
Yes,
to
team
come
members
up.
coming up.
We may have brilliant answers for our judges' questions. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, right. Someone's got to hold my mic. Very good.
Thinking about it. There's a mic on the table. Go ahead.
Still without everything. That's the bell. Nice. Yeah, baby. Got like a really bad hair. No, looks good.
I have a question for you.
So 3 minutes, we'll start with Susie.
I have a quick question.
So.
Nice job. I thought you presented really well.
Okay.
So and I know you might not have had a whole lot of time to do a lot of research into it. In direct marketing, anyway, typically cost of good, the spread between cost of goods and retail price is typically 5 to 7 times. So it seemed to me that your cost of goods relative to the price that you're going to sell it for seems a little low if you're going to have enough gross margin of profit to be able to pay for your media. So it raised a little bit of a question for me.
Yes. The price of $30 was the non-personalized product. The personalized product, the price can be much higher, and that's where they submit their own pictures to be put on the product.
Oh wait, so you're saying that the product could be personalized to an individual or to a couple?
Yes, yes. So that the face covers the cards is a picture of a couple, maybe in like a knight's outfit, and then they submit their photos, and so it's individualized for that couple. So that price point might be like one customer said they would pay $65 for a product like that.
The $10 price was actually based on having a customized version. So we may get the actual manufacturer price down quite a lot for the ones that aren't customized.
Yeah, I think it's a really good concept. I think that definitely it's all about creating a brand that people really gravitate to. My question would be around the cost for acquiring a customer. Typically, I've done some products on the net, and 26 cents per click would be very, very low in general. You guys have some concerns with that. And 5% response rate would be very, very high in general. Response rates are often 1%, 1/10 of 1%. So you have to really do some modeling around that, because that's going to ultimately determine how much you need to charge for the product to be working. But that all can change a lot if you get traction and brand recognition, and of course the market just kind of comes to you. But just getting out there and knocking on doors, in essence, pay per click, it's pretty expensive.
And one thing, obviously this would be like a second phase, but we do envisage that there would be a strong community element of this, where people that enjoy the product share their experiences and stories online and through social media, create kind of a viral effect.
Yeah, and the viral thing, that completely changed the whole model.
Well, you have to get to that.
Yeah, exactly. So that might be part of your model. You need X number of dollars to get to viral mass adoption.
Yes, that's 3 minutes. Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah, you're good. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, hey, I'm Ty Ward. I'm here to introduce you guys to Fantasy 31. How many people in here have ever played a fantasy sports game? All right, a few of you, that's good. All right, so for you guys that haven't, it's a way to take real life sporting events, turn it into points, and you can compete against your friends for bragging rights and or money. It's been around for 50 years in many, many forms, And look, annually about $7 billion in this country are spent on fantasy sports each year. The Fantasy 31, we're going to make a head-to-head mobile game you can play against your friends and play fantasy. We want to feel like we are the gateway drug to harder fantasy that people are going to get into for the mobile users. All right. The team, me, Tony, David, Samson, we all came together, 3 Fairfield guys and 1 Des Moines guy. All right. The problem, fantasy has become big money since the federal legalization. It's legal in 42 states to play for money. The problem is now that the expert sharks are able to go in and they dominate all of the average players. The normal player spends about 4 hours per week messing with their fantasy rosters and about 9 hours per week doing research. That's a lot of time, but they still can't compete with the experts who probably spend 30 hours doing this, and they can't compete against them. So the average player is getting their butts kicked in these competitions. They need something where they can play that's fun again. The average fantasy player is also 38 years old and male, while the average mobile gamer is, the casual gamers are 26 years old and female, and the core mobile gamers are 30 years old and male. So fantasy players can definitely come down in age if we attract that market. Our solution, mobile app, quick and easy to play against people you know. Stay true to what fantasy sports is, don't change the rules on them so that people that love fantasy sports can still play this and feel like it's a game that they love. And you can play for bragging rights and or money where it's legal. All right, here's screenshots from our full working demo that we have. I want to remind everyone we are not graphic designers. We are almost all developers. So these do not look pretty. We would definitely want to hire a graphic designer. So the game is based on the 31 card game. You're going to get 3 players. So you only pick 3 players, a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver. Your goal is to get up to the 31 points that week and not go over. Closest to 31 wins. It's like blackjack, but you're projecting what the cards are going to be later when they actually reveal the values to you afterwards. You would start a game, you can play against randoms or your friends, you pick them, and yeah, that's what you dominate. Market validation. We went up and we surveyed a bunch of people. Most of them were my friends, and to nobody's surprise, they're all sports fans, except Kevin. Many of the fantasy football players do not play mobile games, and many of the mobile game players did not play fantasy. So I think there's a lot of room for crossover there, especially among women who seemed like time constraints were a big deal for them. So we're making our game that it only takes 1 or 2 minutes. Market size. Like I said before, there's a lot of players, 60 million players in the US and Canada alone, $7 billion in revenue. Average player spends $500 a year on their fantasy teams. Performance and review. 10%, so when we're doing these projections, we projected 10% of the download can turn into active users. And we talked to a guy in Iowa City who does mobile games, and he said that with a combination of microtransactions and ads, we could expect $5 per user, per active user. So that's where we got our gross income. And for our 3 months out, we wanted to get 1% of the fantasy world to try our product. We felt like that was conservative. Startup costs, got to do a lot of marketing, got to get a lot of hardware, got to do a lot of data and licensing. Our business model is we're creating a free game. We want people to play it, and we want them to be a part of the infrastructure. Competition, there's a lot of companies that are doing it. FanDuel, DraftKings, Draft Day, they're the fantasy companies. The other 2 games are social companies or social media, the regular games you might be playing. Our competitive advantage is that we're going to be head-to-head, and that's inherently more social than playing against 10,000 randoms. And yeah, there's a lot of apps in the store, and there's not a lot of apps doing this. So really, that's good or bad. David and Samson to the stage. I felt like I was speed talking. I apologize. There's a lot of data. judges. How you guys doing?
Hey, good. I think I like the concept. I think there is room to slice off parts of the fantasy world, the sports world. I think 1% is everyone's dream, and every businessman you've ever seen get 1% of something. No one ever gets 1% until they become the monster. But you may not eat 1%. I think in general, I think that's a nice niche that could be carved out. That could be a lucrative one.
Awesome, thank you.
Nice job, Ty and team. Ty, you mentioned that a lot of mobile users don't play fantasy games, and fantasy game players aren't necessarily, too much on mobile. I'm hoping you can explain that a bit more, and how you guys reconcile that paradox, or whatever you want to call it.
That was mostly through our surveys. We sent out surveys, or we walked around surveying people to ask them those questions. And yeah, the fantasy players tended to be a little bit older, and so they weren't playing mobile games very often. And maybe they were playing 2 hours per week, 1 hour per week. The people we knew that were playing 2 hours per day weren't going into fantasy as much. So we saw that there was a lot of separation between the two markets right there. So if you could bridge that gap, and you could bring the casual gamers into fantasy, and fantasy into casual gaming, there's a lot of crossover room there. That's what the data seemed to tell us. And the data was very small sample size. It's us asking our friends. So. Caveat.
Absolutely. And then you mentioned really in the last slide about competitive advantage being the head-to-head challenge component of yours. Is that unique? Do some of these other competitors that you mentioned out there have that as a feature? I mean, how is that truly a competitive advantage?
So a lot of the daily sites that are out there right now are kind of like the poker sites that are out there, where you're playing against random people. And they may have contests where you're playing one-on-one, but they're not trying to get you to play against friends that are in your friend book. We would like you to actually spread this game to your friends, and I want to play me versus Ben, so I can get the bragging rights for the week. So they do have heads-up playing, but they don't have it's not very social when you don't know the person. It's easier to smack talk a guy you went to college with than it is some guy who probably lives in Canada somewhere, So we're actually trying to make it so it's not anonymous. You're not playing against anonymous people, but playing against your friends, and make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more social, more smack talk, more engagement, more people staying within the ecosystem.
Okay, great. And I really like the network effect that could create. And just for the record, there would be no bragging rights in the Ty versus Ben. This Ty would get
This time.
You know it.
This time. That's time. Thank you, guys.
I'm here with my team. We have Waterfall Electric, our creation for Startup Weekend. And we're showing you the business as it will be, created by our team. 4 core members, Randy Pringle, Keisha Nelson, Donald Albert, and me, Matthew Liverworth. And our goal is to end up reselling hydropower systems at a 40% profit. So, for those of you who love solar energy, this may come as a surprise, or you may have already have an educated answer for it, but at the moment there's a high capital cost for solar, and there's various ways around that. Now, another way is to just use a different system, hydropower. Hydropower is just almost as convenient as nuclear power in a lot of ways. Now, it's also flexible, except for the fact that it's not as flexible as solar power, so there's an advantage there. Okay. And hydropower on a utility scale is widespread. As this chart shows, China and Europe, mainly Norway, are the largest users of hydropower, with the US as the third. Now, what are the average costs? This data might be out of date, but solar power is slightly above the cost of residential power here in the United States. Now, the effective cost is lower, however, it's much lower for hydropower. Here's an example of a municipal scale hydropower setup. All right, us. Hydropower is sexy, as is making money while taking a bath. There's a lot more we can tell you about that. So untapped sources of local hydropower. There's companies that are actively seeking, and you'll see some of them on the next slide, to make use of the excess pressure in municipal water systems, for instance. And these are three of the companies that have the full range of solutions, from ones that retrofit municipal water solutions to just general turbines that someone can install in their own house. So, who are we? Waterfall Electric. We are people who affiliate with the manufacturers. We present, just like we're doing today, but in a much more professional way, with real money on the line, although actually Jeffrey's offering is pretty damn convincing. And based on our presentations, we know that the customers are out there. So the cost savings are real. There's some markets we'd like to explore. Going into emergency settings is one of them, but for the bread and butter is to just make presentations to residential customers and municipalities. So just man on the street interviews. Most people say yes, or decision makers. If they say no, it's usually because they're not decision makers. This is to at least let us pitch to them. So our company goes ahead, which chances are it might. We have our 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, half-year, and 1-year targets. And then what do we need? We need money for different things. And then, go ahead. This sector as a whole is growing around 17% a year. Mostly industrial scale. The missing link is the municipal and residential scale. So, today, we're looking for $4,000, and that way we can go ahead, see if we can meet our 40% profit goal, and start setting up a business, and get all these things. And we know that the market will grow from less than a terawatt globally right now to more than almost a terawatt and a half in 7 years. All right, thank you very much. So if Randy, Keisha, and Donald could join me. Oh yes, Randy will be handing out things for the judges, some examples. All right. Can I hear a question?
Okay, so you're saying that the main bread and butter of the industry will be going after residential services. So the idea would be, if you have municipal water, which we all do at this point, you're going to go in and summon the turbine that will essentially save them X amount on their water bill or their general electric. How does that work?
It works by reducing the water pressure to a house. So we might be shooting ourselves in the foot. That's in a very special case situation. Now, just as a thought experiment, imagine that your power goes out. However, you have a turbine connected to the water system. As long as the water system still functions, every time you fill the bathtub, take a shower, get drinking water, that's running water through a turbine, generating just enough electricity to charge your cell phone or whatever. So it's a very special case emergency power setup. However, for residential customers who have a creek in their backyard or a swimming pool that gets filled up or whatever, that's a huge opportunity to just put a turbine in the system.
Did you mention what the cost would be, retail price to the consumer for the turbine?
I know that the net cost would be around half of what traditional electric service would be in a situation where they have abundant free-flowing water, like a small stream next door. So how that amortizes just depends on what the size of the house is, etc. But an example, off-the-shelf turbine you could probably get in the $5,000 range. Or if you make it yourself, in the $2,000 range, probably a couple thousand people in the United States have already made them themselves using the multi-wheel kits.
Just wondering, can any, I guess, plumber install one of these turbines?
Yes. For residential scale, if it's municipal scale, like on a water tower, then it would be a crew from municipal water department.
So in a water tower, you're paying for electricity to pump the water up.
Yes.
Right, and then you gravity pulling it down. You're saying you get more energy from it coming down than you pay for it to go up?
It'd be mainly in the case if the water tower was arbitrarily too high, and so the pressure for the population was greater than the pipes needed. Now, in some cases, the water tower is located in a central place in the city, and then there's districts or neighborhoods or wards of the city that are lower, and those neighborhoods will have higher pressure. And so rather than put a system on the water tower at the center of the city, you put it on the feeder to that lower elevation city. And one of our proposed affiliate manufacturers has done probably hundreds of installations exactly like that.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Lance, and I am here to present Sustainable Families. 34% of the homeless population in the United States is comprised of families, 84% of which are led by women. This demographic is not surprising to me, as 3 years ago I was a victim of domestic violence and found myself leaving Oregon with a child by my side and another one in my belly. I, by the grace of my family, was taken care of. But there are so many families that are put into this system every single year, and they did not get the support that I got from my family. They go through self-sufficiency programs and try to bolster a sense of community, but ultimately they end up being cycled back into a system that put them there in the first place. Sustainable Families is a nonprofit organization that seeks to break this cycle by offering a stepping stone from emergency shelters to long-term housing. Families who enter this program will receive temporary housing, mental health services, child support or child services, life skill training, job and higher education training, and ultimately they will receive sustainability education, including practical skill sets as they build their own long-term housing in the form of a mobile tiny home. It is going to be a community-based approach in order to break the stigma of homelessness and also to bolster that sense of community within the families, but also the community at large. We're going to offer this by providing a community space for people to congregate, including gardens, a tool lending library and child care services, as well as partnering with organizations that are already established within the community. An estimate for a startup is $20,000. This is a ballpark estimate based off of nonprofits that already exist that started as small startups and are now multi-million nationwide nonprofits, specifically implemented for homelessness. Opportunities to fund this would come from grants, private donations, corporate donations. The business itself, as it grows and chapters begin to blossom across the state, will be required to generate a portion of their own funds specifically for their site. They'll also be generating income from the families themselves who come through the program. As part of the life skill training, they will be required to allocate a portion of that money to build their own mobile tiny home. And finally, last but not least, money will be generated from a curriculum that I am currently creating called The Life of the Sun. This is a series of interchangeable sustainability modules that can be arranged any which way to allocate the needs of a given target audience. It can be dovetailed into a DHS program. It can be used for disaster relief, mental health services, used in schools, you name it. First and foremost, the greatest need for this program would be to get temporary housing. I don't know if you guys know this, but the closest shelter to Fairfield is in Ottumwa. The next closest is in Des Moines. Marshalltown within this past year had their shelter closed, so families in that area have to go all the way to Ames in order to receive aid. The need is great. There's over 1 million people every single year that seek the aid of shelters. They are disappearing and the need is there. Beyond needing the temporary housing, we would have to allocate a space for community to congregate and for childcare to be established. We already have our foot in the door by a partnership I have with Leanne Hayes, who has offered this shop on her property to build the mobile tiny homes. People that we need for this program are board members, partnerships, investors, employees, volunteers, and most importantly, the clients. The benchmarks for the road ahead, within this year, we'd like to have temporary housing and childcare underway. Within 5 years, I would like to see Sustainable Families as a statewide program, and in 7 years nationwide. This is the awesome team of people that I had the opportunity to collaborate with this weekend. We are Sustainable Families. Please check out our website.
Nice job. I think you did a really good job of presenting tremendous. I don't know you, but I feel very proud of you for pursuing this and standing up and making this presentation because it's such a big need in our community. But with that said, I think it's important to be able to explain the monetization of the program. And that's one thing that you really weren't able to get on. And so I think if you were to focus on what are the financial needs and how it would be monetized, then I think you could make some progress. And I think you will be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, really powerful, really well done. And then a baby on stage, what to do, yeah, like my heartstrings, like, no, really plucked here. The monetization piece and the business model, and I'm sure that as a group you talked about it a bit, how you would make this into a sustainable venture and what would be that kind of long-term, I mean, almost revenue coming in. Maybe you could just pass the mic a bit and tell us you know, some of those numbers and ideas that you were throwing out as you put this together.
So we had mentioned a few of the possible funding streams. There are grant opportunities for these sort of operations, but something that actually would be sustainable over time is the curriculum that this program would develop. It would be on the order of hundreds of dollars. We hadn't found a complete price point yet. It would depend on what other modules and what other things are being developed.
Who would be the payer?
It would be social services, governmental agencies, mental health institutions, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us are not aware of the kind of needs that we have. In Fairfield, no less the state of Iowa, and rural Jefferson County, because it's not so visible. But over the years, I've been learning more and more about those kinds of things. So it's great to do something like that here locally. And I think there probably is enough support in town. Fairfield has a record number of nonprofits for a town of our size. And I think that there's really a lot of support locally for what we're doing.
Customer discovery.
I spent most of yesterday and today kind of feeling out the support in Fairfield and also regionally. I'm in Des Moines today. Was at a convention and met someone who has a sustainability PhD from Beijing. And was like, I really want to help with this, even though I live in Ankeny, I really want to be part of this. And I have this list of people that have just, and this is what we need. And through this, I bring my son everywhere I go, and he's, I didn't think about it, brought him up on stage. Because this is really what, we don't have much space for the children and the youth, and I brought the youth from the farmer's market, and they came into the collab, and they just joined the team. Some of them are here. And there's just this overwhelming response to the community needing to come together and provide so many avenues for building the community, and it really starts in the home.
I'm just glad to be on this team.
That's time.
Thank you guys. We'll get on the stage. Thank you.
If you're a mentor, I know you guys are like, what are you doing?
It's like the whole room.
Taking the picture.
Hey, Mark. All the way up.
We're gonna need that light.
The other way.
Need lights.
There we go.
Yay.
All right. 3, 2, and 1. Of course, we're doing more than that, but
I don't know where to look.
you're right, we have several cameras, so. People than we expected.
I don't know if we